Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be working on an electrical repair inside the tail light of one of these old body style GMT 400 trucks. Already did the diagnosis. I'm going to show you the repair here in this video. So to get these guys off, whether it be the pickup or the SUV model, it's all the same. If we swing back over on this side, there's just a couple of Phillips screws, one here at the top, try not to drop them and lose them, and then one right down here at the bottom. You got either drop the tailgate or drop the lift gate if you're on like a Tahoe or a Suburban or a Yukon, something like that. And then this guy's held on with a couple of little clips here and here, so we just want to kind of wiggle those loose. So if you kind of force it off, they can break. See these I'm talking about here? This guy and this guy. So the problem we've got is this wiring harness. You can see it's like this right here, and you can keep coming and putting it back in, but what will happen is it'll keep working its way off. And the reason it keeps working its way off is there's supposed to be a clasp that's holding it on here to this connector that has broken off from age. So we're going to be fixing that problem today. So I'm just going to show you how you go about doing something like that. So if we whip out the service manual for these editions and we go to the lighting systems section, we can find all of the connectors that are used in all of the lighting systems in the service manual, every single one of them. And it turns out the one that we're looking at here is going to be for both the left and the right. It's the same thing. It's a 5-cavity Metri-Pack that 4 of them are populated. And then there's a part number for this connector, 1206-5861. You can see this is the left side, and then the right side over here is the exact same number. So what I'm doing here on the left, it'll apply to the right as well. Metri-Pack 280 series, 5 position female. This number has not been made for a long time, but what is still made is the pigtail rather than just the individual connector. And the pigtail part number is an AC Delco PT 1937 or 8886-0492. So this is probably the most valuable thing I'm sharing with you is the part number for this, right? And so I'll give you that connector with our retainer that we need, and then it'll have the lines already here for you to splice in. Now in this case, I'm not going to use the wiring because I really just wanted the connector. So I'm just going to show you how to depin this and swap these connectors. So the first thing we're going to do on a depinning is we're going to move the retainer off on this style. So I'm going to close this book up here, and we can see there's like a retainer for these wires. Sometimes you can get these off with your finger, but we're just going to get a little help from the tool here. Since we're using this one, we just don't want to damage it, so I'm being super gentle with it. Alright, so that's just held on here and here. Alright, now we got to get these pins out. So I got a different tool for that. These used to be made by GM's Packard Electric division, and then that got sold off when they did their bankruptcy or separation to Delphi, and then when those guys ended up going out of business, they went to this company called Aptiv. This 1209-4430 is a depinning tool that will work for this type of connector. What we're going to want to do is we're going to put this in this little slot. If we zoom in here, there's like a little slot above each of these terminals. We want to work this tool in there and then push down on the retaining pin. So if I can get this where you can see it, because what you're going to see is when I catch it just right, this terminal is going to go in. Once it goes in a little bit, then we can push it out with the tool and remove it, right? So we're going to do that to all of these. Alright, so now we've got the connector we need and the retainer. We're not going to use these in our case, and even though these are new insulators. They're crimped down on the back here, so it's not easy to reuse. If you really feel like you need them, you can pry up on these two tabs of metal from the terminal, and you can salvage this. But you'd end up having to kind of pull it off and then kind of work it off the terminal, and it'd probably get damaged. So my advice is just kind of leave it alone. Now we're going to come over and do the same thing on the original and get it ready for the swap. So again, we're going to work this retaining piece off. I can't even feel anything in my hands today, guys. It's like super cold with this polar vortex that has swooped in. It's like 18 degrees out here right now. All right, so there's that. And then we're going to do the same thing we did on the new one, on the old one here. Now you don't need to unplug the battery or anything like that. Just pay attention that you don't let these terminals touch the body if you're concerned about that. Now, they're going to be kind of wedged in a lot more because the metal has just been sitting like this for, decades. So just be careful as you pull it out. So as I do this, I'm going to do them one at a time and repin them. So what's been happening with this tool is it's been coming in here and it's been pressing down. If we zoom in, it's been pressing down on this little piece here. This is the retainer. And before we plug it into the replacement one, we're going to stick our tool behind here. We're just going to kind of coax this up a little bit just to take care of any downward bending that might have happened during the removal process. It doesn't need to be up very high, just like that. And then we're going to grab our replacement, tab facing up. Actually, it helps if you have it in the right direction. Sorry about that, guys. All right, and now our first one's in. So we're just going to repeat that process on the other four. So insert the tool, give it a push down, remove the terminal, coax the retainer back up a little bit, insert it into our replacement until you hear it click. And then just test it to make sure it has fully seated. So this is a real easy to do repair, as you can see. Now if you got problems with the actual harness, you may have to go ahead and splice in the pigtail. But in our case, there's nothing wrong with the wiring harness itself. We just need a new connector. And so, yeah, well, somebody might say, well, why don't you just put a zip tie or something on there? That's not a repair, guys. That's a hack. And we're not going to do a hack. We're going to repair it the right way. That's why they make parts like this. If they felt that putting a zip tie on was a repair, they wouldn't make parts like this. One more. Okay. Again, just going to get him back up so he'll seat nice and well. Now this one I'm not going to push in all the way just yet because I want to get our retainer wedged in here. Okay, now I'll push it in. Okay, so all of our terminals in all the way. And now we'll lock them in with the retainer. All right, so once again, we're going to give a tug test. We're going to make sure these are all seated nice and well, and they are. Now we're going to go grab our taillight assembly, and this intermittent problem where this thing keeps working its way out and losing the taillight is fixed because it's now securely fastened. To get this guy back in, we're just going to line these tabs up here and here with these cutouts in the fender here and here. And then we're going to put those 2 screws back in. These 2 Phillips screws. There's no torque value specified in the service manual for these 2. So just snug it up. You don't need to go crazy with it. Just good and tight is fine. So I hope this video helps you out if you've got a similar kind of repair and you've been wondering, can I find a terminal or rather a connector to replace that? Well, now you've got the information on how to do it, and now you've also got the information for how to just depin it and change the connector rather than having to splice all this in if you don't need to. If you do need to, then that's great. You still have the part that you need and you've got what it takes to do the job. I'll put links in the description for both the tool and the part below. If you found this video useful and it helps you get your taillight problem fixed, I'd appreciate you paying it forward by hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.